Okay, let's now take a look at how those other verbs that end in ere and ire conjugate, okay? So, in this chart, we have parlare, prendere e dormire. One verb for each category. So parlare, to talk, prendere means many things. To take, but you can take a bus, you can take a cappuccino, you can take tennis lessons, io prendo, but I'll explain it in a second. And dormire, to sleep. So we did already the conjugation of the verbs that end in are, which follow the same structure because they are regular verbs, when they are regular verbs. Like parlare, io parlo, tu parli, lui, lei parla, noi parliamo, voi parlate, loro parlano. And now let's look at what happens with the verbs that end in ere and the verbs that end in ire. Now, we already can tell that our attention is drawn to the fact that these fields have already been filled in your book, because under this subject pronouns, the pattern changes. Now let's look at it. Where it is empty, the pattern stays the same. So let's look at the verb prendere. Io prendo, right? Io prendo un caffè, io prendo l'autobus. Tu prendi un caffè o tu prendi l'autobus. Lui, lei prende, noi prendiamo, noi prendiamo, voi prendete, loro prendono. So let's look at it. Parlo, prendo. Parli, prendi. Parla, prende. Here it changes. Lui, lei prende. You can't say lui, lei prenda. Lui, lei prende. You see it's following some connection to the ending of a verb here. Lui, lei prende. Noi prendiamo. Stays the same. Voi prendete. You see the A here is changed for an I. Prendete. Loro prendono. It changes again. Okay? And the same goes for dormire. Let's do dormire. Io dormo. Lui, lei dorme. Ah no, tu dormi. Lui, lei dorme. Noi dormiamo. Voi dormite. Loro dormono. So many verbs that end in ire and ere follow this pattern. But there are other verbs, and the vast majority of those that end in ire follow yet again a different pattern. But it's all about practice and listening and practice and repeating, okay? So let me bring the lavagna up for a second. I just want to add something. So in Italian, you can take io prendo l'autobus. I take the bus. Io prendo una birra. I take a beer. Io prendo una lezione di italiano. I take an Italian lesson. No, hold on, Italiano. This is just an aside so that you understand that you can use it in different contexts, okay? Let's now put some of these verbs into some sort of context, but we are going to concentrate on the subject pronouns where the structure, the pattern changes, okay? Okay, here's our original list of verbs that we were looking at the beginning of this lesson and previous lessons. Let's look for a verb that also ends in ere. So, ere, scrivere. Let's do something with scrivere and see if we can see. Scrivere, questa è la forma del verbo all'infinito, scrivere. Okay. So, let's concentrate on the subject pronouns where it doesn't stay in the pattern. And this is lui, lei, voi, and loro. Okay? So, I can write lui scrive molte lettere. He writes many letters. Scrive. You see, scrivere, scrive molte lettere. Lui scrive molte lettere. I didn't write lui scriva. I wrote lui scrive because I'm following this pattern. Okay? The other one where it changes is in the voi. Voi scrivete molte lettere. I'm following the same pattern. Scrivete, ete, prendete. Loro scrivono molte lettere. Okay? And I didn't say scrivano, I said scrivono. I'm following this pattern here. Okay, so it's in the third person singular, not the third person singular, the second person plural, and the third person plural, okay? In lui, voi, and loro. Let's look for a verb that ends in dormire. Sorry, that ends in ire. Okay, ire, aprire. Let's take this one, aprire, okay? She means to open. Lui apre la porta. Lui apre la porta. Ends in ire. Lui apre la porta. See how it ends? Also, apre, dorme, lui, lei prende, lui, lei dorme, lui, lei apre la porta. Okay. The next is voi. Voi aprite la porta. Voi prendete una birra, voi dormite tardi, voi aprite la porta. I'm following the same pattern here. Voi aprite, voi dormite. We're just looking at the verb that ends in ire, not the ones that end in ere. I just read this one here and I shouldn't have included it. So I'll repeat again. Voi aprite la porta. Voi dormite molto. Ite. Last one, loro. Loro aprono la porta. Loro aprono la porta. Aprono la porta. I didn't say loro aprono la porta, okay? So this will come with practice, and practicing your verbs is going to be something that is going to take time as you actually use them in your written exercises in your spoken language, okay? We are now going to look at some verbs that end in the ide form because they have a different conjugation, most of them. So let me share the screen again. So while we just did this, right? Dormire ends in ire, and it followed pretty much the same pattern, except for the lui, lei, for the voi, and for the loro. It changes in relation to how the conjugation is done with the verbs that end in are. But many verbs that end in ire have a different form of pattern and structure. And that's because they belong to the isk group of verbs of the ire group. So for example, capire, to understand. Look, io capisco. Tu capisci. Lui, lei capisce. Noi capiamo. Voi capite. Loro capiscono. So, something to bear in mind is, and I mentioned it earlier, is that the letter C and the letter G, in this case the letter C, la lettera C, has two sounds. Un suono dolce, a sweet sound, ch, 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 e un suono duro, k, a hard sound. So when you read these verbs, bear in mind that the vowel that comes after the consonant chi will determine whether you give it a sweet sound or a hard sound. Io capisco is a hard sound, capisco. Tu capisci, it's a sweet sound. Lui, lei capisce, it's a sweet sound, okay? So this is the pattern pretty much for many verbs that end in ire. And here we have a few more that we can fill in together to exercise the endings, okay? So io capisco, io finisco. Io finisco. Io finisco, io preferisco. I prefer. Io preferisco. Io pulisco. To clean. And spedire is to send. So let's give it the same ending. Io spedisco. So we have io capisco, io finisco, io preferisco, io pulisco, io spedisco. Okay? Now, when we move to the second person singular, you, tu capisci, tu finisci, tu finisci. Why is not? Wait a second. Ecco, tu finisci, tu preferisci, tu pulisci e tu spedisci. Okay. Let's just finish one of these verbs alone, because otherwise it's going to take too long. But this is just to make you understand what the pattern is. let's finish the verb finire, which is to end. So, io finisco, tu finisci, lui, lei finisce, right? Noi finiamo, look at the pattern, voi finite, e loro finiscono, ok? Bring this up a little bit. Okay, so, no. Ok, is that better? Yeah. Allora, io capisco, io finisco. You repeat after me, ok? Io capisco, io finisco. Tu capisci, tu finisci. Lui, lei capisce, lui, lei finisce. Noi capiamo, noi finiamo. Voi capite, voi finite. Loro capiscono, loro finiscono. Okay? So if you want, you can listen to this section again and on your own practice the rest of the three verbs: preferire, pulire, and spedire. Okay? And for the end of our lesson, I'm going to add a grammar tutorial that is actually in the book. Okay? I know it's a lot to take in 1 hour online lesson, but this is just to give you a general overview of the structure of the three categories of verbs. Regular verbs, because then we also have irregular verbs. These are just regular verbs that follow a structure. Ok? Ciao ragazzi, ciao.
The present indicative. Regular verbs in ARE, ERE, and IRE. Elise is visiting the Uffizi in Florence with Massimo when she receives a text from Sara.
Dove sei? Agli Uffizi con Massimo. Jacob dov'è? A casa, dorme. Che fate dopo? Massimo studia a casa e io prendo un caffè con Paolo. Guardiamo un film in piazza con Paolo stasera? A che ora? Alle 10.
Let's review the verb endings in the text messages.
Prendo un caffè. Massimo studia. Jacob dorme. Guardiamo un film.
Now let's look at the present tense of regular verbs ending in ARE, ERE, and IRE.
O,
Io guardo, prendo, dormo.
I,
Tu guardi, prendi, dormi.
A,
Lui o lei guarda.
E,
Lui o lei prende, dorme.
iamo,
Noi guardiamo, prendiamo, dormiamo.
ate, ete, ite.
Voi guardate, prendete, dormite.
Ano,
Loro guardano,
ono.
loro prendono, dormono.
When learning a language, it is helpful to look for patterns. Have you identified a pattern in these verb endings? Let's look at the endings for each of the subjects. Did you notice that the endings for io are the same for all three verbs? And that the endings for tu are also the same? Look carefully at the endings for lui and lei. ARE verbs end in A, but ERE and IRE verbs both end in E. It's only one letter, but it is an important distinction. The endings for noi are easy to remember. They are the same for all three verbs. But look at the endings for voi. The endings maintain the characteristic vowel of the infinitive. Finally, pay close attention to the endings for loro. Did you notice that ARE verbs end in ANO, but that ERE and IRE verbs both end in ONO? Are verbs ending in iare have the same endings, but pay attention to the tu and noi forms.
Io studio. Tu studi. Lui o lei studia. Noi studiamo. Voi studiate. Loro studiano.
Did you notice that the tu and noi forms have only one I?
Ora tocca a te.
Now you are going to complete a series of statements about the student's day. Your challenge is to choose the correct ending for each verb before the answer appears.
If you said,
Massimo studia molto.
fantastico!
If you said, Paolo legge il giornale.
Esatto! If you said,
Elise parla al telefono.
Perfetto!
If you said, Elise e Sara cenano alle 8.
wow!
If you said,
Elise, Sara e Paolo guardano un film in piazza.
Stupendo! If you said,
E Jacob dorme ancora.
fantastico!
Elise and Paolo are at a cafe near the Duomo in Florence. Sara texts Elise about their evening plans.
che fai? Sono al bar con Paolo. Lui legge il giornale e io prendo un caffè. Che fate dopo? Visitiamo il Duomo e poi torniamo a casa.
Bello! Ci vediamo stasera a cena?
Elise ha capito tutto. E tu? Alla prossima!